What's going on, everybody?
Hey everybody. Yeah, we have the what do you call it? The Players Championship this week started this morning. I
Started
would
this morning.
imagine.
It's actually inclement weather from what I saw. So I saw that Hayden went out this morning. I think he played 4 holes. Adam Long had played 8 holes. Adam was 2 under. Hayden was 1 under. But as far as I know, it's all postponed. So, and
Yep.
I don't know if it's going to happen today. But cool to see him in there. So I didn't realize this, but last Thursday, we talked about Hayden getting into the Players Championship because my buddy TJ was down at the Bay Hill tournament and
Yeah.
talked to Hayden and his caddy Brian really, and Brian told him that they were in the Players. But then apparently, when that dude won the Corn Fair, no, not the Corn Fair, the guy that won the Puerto Rico Open last weekend, by him winning, it bumped Hayden out of the Players Championship.
Oh no.
It was like the one scenario that could have happened for him to not be in that. And so that guy, I forget his name. Congrats to him though, because that was awesome. He won on a medical exemption, and apparently that's the only way he could have kept his card, and he ended up winning by like 6 strokes. So he gets into the Players Championship, and from what I understand, that bumped Hayden out. And then the fact that DeChambeau backed out because of his wrist or whatever's going on with him, that's what got Hayden back in. So imagine that Sunday night, Hayden probably got a call, and he was probably on his way down there.
Right.
And they said,
You're
sorry,
out.
you're out. And then next day, because I was wondering, my brother sent me a text Monday morning and said, Hayden Buckley gets in the Players Championship because DeChambeau backs out. I'm like, what's this all about? He was already in. So apparently that's the story.
I don't know who's in charge of keeping track of all that stuff. It is, but I'm sure there's a computer system, but good God, there are so many tours going on, so many points here, so many exemptions here. I don't get it. Like,
yeah,
I wonder if Hayden even grasped it. Like, wait, you just said I was in, assholes. What are you doing?
yeah, I don't know. Yeah, like who's the guy that calls and says, hey, sorry, I don't think it's not going to happen. But there's a guy, Ryan French. His handle on Twitter is Case. I think it's Case of the Golf. And he used to like report on all the Monday qualifiers and all that stuff. He's a good follow for a lot of those kind of things, because he just keeps you up to date with who's in what, who qualified for what. And for whatever reason, that guy has really taken a liking to Hayden Buckley. So he keeps you up to date on a lot of the Hayden Buckley stuff. In fact, he sent out a tweet that somebody texted over to me a couple of days ago, and it said, I don't know who needs to hear this, but Hayden Buckley still drives the same F-150 truck that he drove in high school. And he just drove several hours out of his way to get down to the Players Championship to go donate thousands of dollars worth of clothes or something like that. He's like, just thought you guys should know.
That's pretty cool. Awesome.
Yeah. So
he's not a money guy, huh? Hayden, he's not going crazy with his bucks yet.
No. Oh yeah, and it said in there he's made $700,000 in his first year on tour, and he's still driving his F-150 that he drove as a teenager. So that was pretty cool.
Boy, this microchip shortage is hitting everybody. It's hitting professional golfers.
Right.
I'd be willing to bet Phil Mickelson is not driving his same high school vehicle.
I wouldn't think so.
Maybe
he's in a submarine right now.
Yeah, maybe he's in the same plane. Air Phil. I like that the caddies called it that.
Yeah.
We're taking Air Phil over to, I think, Europe or wherever we're going when we talk to those guys.
What else we got going on? Players Championship. Last week was a bit of a rough one at Bay Hill for our boy Hayden, for everybody really. Hayden was doing well, had a rough Saturday, but a lot of guys had rough Saturday, Sundays.
It must have.
Rough was nasty. The greens apparently were like glass.
Yeah, the setup seemed extremely, extremely difficult. It's funny because it makes you feel like you're not as bad as you are, but then you and I would have went and shot a 25 over.
Oh, it would have been
that day, not for the weekend. That day.
Right. To sneak out of there under 100, I think for most guys would have been tough. They said that, some of the players, and I think Rory actually made this comment that, with a setup like that, and the Players Championship the next week, he's like, man, I'm not trying to be a baby, but I don't think a lot of the top tier guys are going to want to come and grind it out with conditions like this, knowing that the Players Championship is the next week. It's just
Right.
so, they may be looking at hopefully dialing that back a little bit. I mean, I'm all for it being a challenge for those guys, but that rough was like 6 to 8 inches. I mean, it was crazy looking.
Yeah. It reminded me of the Ryder Cup that was in Paris. I think that was the last time I was in Europe, and that rough was like a total. I mean, especially like DeChambeau, you get it. Why he would, if you've got a wrist problem going on, you don't want to mess with that at all.
Right.
I mean, that was like the wrist breaker right there. Trying to get out of that stuff.
And then trying to control it, and then hitting it onto greens that are lightning fast. It's a recipe for high scores, that's for sure.
Well, what do we say every time we're playing golf? Just hit the fairway, and then it doesn't matter.
Right? It's that easy.
Easy game. I have not transitioning into the golf fitness thing. I don't typically follow like Brandel Chablis. He's a St. Louis guy, by the way. But he is always up guys' asses for working out too much. So I think he'd be the first guy to say the reason that DeChambeau has been hurt is because of all that working out that he did. So I don't know if you've seen anything about that, because he said that that's what ruined Tiger Woods' career.
Yeah, he's been on that for a while now. And he, talking about, he said the same about Rory and Jason Day and all of those guys. I think it's always a combination of different things, and he doesn't know what these guys are doing or not doing. But, like a while back, Rory talked about how at one point he was starting to go super heavy with a lot of his weights and everything. And he was getting pretty muscular and, kind of working on, really upping the poundage on squats and deadlifts and stuff like that. And he had back issues. And I can attest to the fact that, once you start going too heavy on some of that stuff, you can start to cause some issues. But the other thing that Chablis doesn't talk about is the fact that these guys play more golf than golfers ever have. They play way more tournament golf than Jack and those guys ever did. I mean, these guys are out there all the time, traveling all the time, playing pro-ams, doing all these different things. And I think they practice, a lot of them practice a lot, and so constant repetitive motion. So it's kind of like, well, if these guys weren't training, and again, you don't know what type of training they're doing, but if they weren't training, what would their bodies be doing? How would their bodies be possibly breaking down? And I can vouch for the fact that a lot of these guys have very smart dudes or girls in their corner that are helping them with their fitness stuff. And most of them aren't doing a bunch of stupid, reckless exercises. So, and they've got the medical team, they've got the physios, they've got all the recovery stuff. I don't think it's a case of these guys working out too hard.
Oh God, no. And Chablis is just trying to get a rise out of people. That's his job, is to get clicks, and that kind of, he's kind of like the Stephen A. Smith, of golf. It just says like outrageous. I like Stephen A. Smith, by the way, but it just says like crazy outrageous things. Even when Tiger Woods has gone on record saying it was all that running that screwed him up. Yeah. Which, again, there's another reason to not have to run.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm very okay with that.
In combat boots.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've and again, I always wanted to be on his side because he's from St. Louis, Brandel, but he just says silly things that be silly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So what else you got going on here?
Well, completed the Forge. I've been talking people's ears off about the Forge the last several weeks, so might as well let people know that I officially finished it. And it took me 60 days, but I went 61 days because well, as Rob Whirling likes to say, around here at 18 strong, we don't go to 10, we go to 11. So I decided what's one more day? Let's do one more on top of it. And then Saturday, let the reins loose a little bit, had some good food, had some drinks, had all that good stuff. But yeah, the forge was officially complete on Friday, well, Thursday evening into Friday. And then Saturday mornings when I kind of had my first cheat. Still did my cold showers, still did my activities and all that stuff, but the diet and the drinks were flowing.
But still not as much as usual. And would you say you had a couple beers and a couple glasses of wine?
Yeah, we had we kind of planned it out. We had a really, really nice dinner at home so there's this incredible restaurant here in St. Louis called Annie Guns, and they have a smokehouse, and they've got some steaks. So I've had some steaks in the freezer for a while that we were going to cook up on New Year's Eve, and had a really, really nice bottle of wine that a client gave me over a year ago. We've been kind of saving it for a special occasion, and we were going to have a dinner on New Year's Eve with this wine, the steaks and everything. And then we got COVID that week. So we decided, probably not the best time to do this, since nobody's taste buds are really working.
Right.
And so we did that Saturday night. We had a friend that came over early in the afternoon. She was in town from Tucson, Georgia.
Of course.
So she was in town. And so we had a drink with Georgia, and then had our great dinner and hung out with the kiddos. And my daughter cooked me a gooey butter cake, which I had been salivating over for the last couple of weeks, which is a St. Louis tradition cake. It's unbelievable. I'll share I'll have to share the recipe for a gooey butter cake in the 18 strong movement for everybody, since there's a lot of folks that are not from St. Louis. It's pretty incredible. So I had that, and then it was a great weekend. It was a great weekend. And then this week I'm kind of letting myself, no real restrictions or rules, and just kind of, going about my normal thing, doing some workouts, I've got a little back thing going on right now that I'm kind of taking it a little easier on my workouts this week. And then starting next Monday, we're going to hit the back 9 of the Forge, which I'll have some details on that in the next couple of days. So then I'm going to start up another 40 days of some rigorous stuff. It'll be a little bit different. It'll be an extension of some of the daily tasks that we had in the original Forge, and then a couple of different things. And there will be nine things to check off on your box on the calendar every single day. Hence the back 9.
Oh, we are clever marketing.
How about
people.
that? I mean, it's amazing how clever we are.
Yeah. Who named this thing 18 strong? Wow.
Right?
Yeah. So the gooey butter cake, as good as it is, it's equally as bad for you. But it is.
Oh, it's the worst thing for you ever.
It's so great.
It's the ingredients are simple. It's yellow cake mix. It's a couple of eggs. It's a massive amount of powdered sugar, so confection sugar, and a block of cream cheese. And that's pretty much it, I think.
So wait a second, there's no butter in gooey butter cake?
Oh, and I'm sure there's some butter in there. Yeah.
I would imagine.
Yeah.
So.
And I would venture to say that I ate half of the thing over the course of 3 days. And
so I'm not ashamed.
To
wait.
I'm not ashamed.
No. So I know that I was not begging you, but trying to get you to show everybody your results, and like, I don't want to look at how awesome I am. I'm giving you the opportunity. I'm making you tell us, give us the stats that you ended up with, where you started, where you ended. And I don't know if you guys have seen the pictures. Did you post those things anywhere?
Yeah, I posted it on Instagram and Facebook yesterday. So, and I know a couple people that are on this call saw and commented on the post. Yeah, it's kind of weird to, like I put in the post, it's kind of weird to show, half naked pictures of yourself on the internet, which let me put this out there. At what point did guys start working out in the gym with their shirts off? I still think that's really, really strange. Nobody, I don't see it in person, but
I don't see it ever either.
On Instagram. Well, that's because you're not really on Instagram or anything like that. But
I also don't go to the gym.
There are so many, influencers that are like posting videos of themselves working out in like a commercial gym with their shirts off. I'm like, that's weird and kind of gross. Like
It's very gross.
if I was at a gym like this one or at the last gym, Lift St. Louis, which I could see as being more of a place where that would happen because it's a younger crowd. It's a, very athletic younger crowd, but people don't do that over there. I'd be like, that's weird. So I just
Yeah.
had to throw that out there. Because there's if you scroll through Instagram, there's often a lot of, scantily clad people, dudes shirts off, working out, showing exercises. So anyway, you won't get that from me. You'll get like one shirtless pic a year after the Forge, and maybe a picture of me and Sue on the beach or something. But I digress there. So yeah, as far as results, well, here, I'll do this for the crew here. I will pull up a picture and share it real quick.
Yeah, for the record, your the picture you sent me, it's the only shirtless picture I've sent of a man to other buddies. So
that's good to know.
Yeah, you got that going for you.
Okay, let me see if I can share this. All right. Here we go. Close your eyes if you don't like to see shirtless men.
Shirtless dudes.
All right, can you see that?
Oh yeah.
All right, so on the left, that was pre-Forge, and so that was at about 13.3% body fat and like 165-ish pounds. And on the right side, that's 157 pounds at 8.2% body fat. And again, not
Good
that.
Lord.
So I want to be really clear, first of all, that the Forge is not about showing shirtless pictures. It's not, what we're about here at 18 Strong is not about, I know we talk about it quite a bit, like body fat composition and stuff like that. That's not really an indicator of performance for golf whatsoever. But the reason that for me personally, it was kind of a challenge is because of that. Exactly. It's like a measurable feat that I can test myself on, and I can kind of push myself. That was the leanest I've ever been in my entire life, from college athletics, high school athletics. I've never been, Ryan will attest. I grew up as a bit of a chunky kid. We all did in our family. And so it's almost like I've got this inner chunky kid inside that, wants to prove that I can be in shape and fit and lean. Not too long ago, we had a kid here in the gym. He's a collegiate golfer, doesn't put any time or effort into his diet. And he rolled in at 5-point-something% body fat. It's like, he and I just have way different genetics. And so, but the point of the Forge is way more than the fitness and physical piece. It was more about, the mental consistency and doing the tasks and completing your commitments and really being able to stick to a program for 40 days. So whether, and everybody that does the Forge has different versions of it themselves, really, because you determine what your diet is. You determine what your workouts are. And so I took it upon myself to really make sure that if this was going to be the thing that we started, I wanted to make sure that I did it as well as I could, or for the most part, and continue to push doing that. And so that's where, I wanted to get to a certain level, and last year I got pretty lean, and this year I was able to get a little bit more. But again, it's more about, being able to prove to yourself that you can kind of push beyond where you've been before, no matter what age you are. So at 43, almost 44, I can honestly say that I am legitimately more fit right now than I've been in 43 years, which is kind of crazy. So
that's pretty awesome.
So that was my Forge experience. But I think the coolest part of the Forge for me has been seeing the other people that are getting, that are doing it, that are sticking to it, that are maybe screwing up and starting over. I know Brandon is in here. Brandon just restarted not too long ago. We've got Marina who she was the very first person to complete the whole thing. We've got, just got a text message from a buddy of mine that, much like me, he bailed out 20 something days in, and he did it voluntarily. He had a dinner, like a charity dinner. There was a small group of people, and they had a wine and whiskey pairing and this crazy dinner. And he sent me a text before the dinner, and he said, "Hey, want to let you know that I'm out tonight, but I'm starting again tomorrow morning." And so then he went 40 straight days, and just texted me yesterday that he finished. He lost 21 pounds since starting the thing. He's one of my best college buddies. And it's like, just to see other people doing this, and the changes that they're making, and then they're inspiring other people. It's like, man, this is something that's really pretty cool. And I think that we'll have a lot of impact on a lot of people if we just continue to do this, continue to spread word, and continue to lead by example too, which is exactly what I was trying to do through that whole process.
Yeah, no, it works. Yeah, now we've got the visual that it works. Yeah, that's a good story from your buddy, who shall remain nameless until he gives us permission to use it. But,
Tim, we can say Tim.
Yeah, Tim B. Yeah, 21 pounds. That's solid. Did he send you any pictures? Tell him I need a shirtless picture of him.
He did send me a couple pictures, but he said, "Do not share these." So,
when you become a physical therapist, is it like, doctor-patient confidentiality?
Well, it is. When I'm practicing as a physical therapist, I have no HIPAA regulations for what I do right now, since I'm more fitness side than anything.
Yeah, he hasn't paid you $1, so you can share that with everybody.
I'll keep Tim's pictures private, which that's kind of weird too.
Now you've told us about it.
Yeah,
that's awesome. I'm excited to see the back nine that you've put together. Yeah, I haven't seen any of it.
Yeah, very, very similar stuff. Just some additional things. I'll have something posted in the Facebook, in the 18 Strong Movement group tomorrow on the back nine tasks. I need to do a little graphic design work to actually get the calendar. That calendar takes way longer to put together than many would realize. It's a very tedious task to do.
Yeah, trying to make it all line up and I got you.
And fit and all that jazz, and be able for people to read it.
Oh yeah.
So what do we got this week? What kind of questions we got? And I know we were kind of talking about maybe switching up the topic a little bit of what we initially talked about.
Yeah. So we just to kind of touch base on we've had a lot of stuff about like recovery this week. What do you do on your quote unquote off days, where an off day is not a cheat day? I think a lot of people, that's where they go wrong. And I know you and I talked about this, where like when it comes to recovery, rest is not always recovery. And kind of the example is, if you go out in Vegas, from till 3 a.m. in the morning and hoot and holler and drink your face off and sleep for 12 hours the next day, versus the guy who is doing the right things, eating properly, working out, and he sleeps for 12 hours. Those ain't the same 12 hours.
Right.
And I'm sure anybody who's ever been overserved, it's never our fault. The bartender overserves us, that the next day you may sleep 12 hours and you still feel like a pile of garbage. And what really made that whole thing clear is, like, especially you when you're wearing that Whoop. And I talked to a lot of guys about that. And like, I can tell if I have 2 or 3 beers that because of the Whoop, that my sleep is off. And it doesn't necessarily have to be beer. It could be, a bad meal or not working out or something.
Or caffeine or something. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Some sort of like outside stimulant, or not even have to be a stimulant, but something that's screwing that up. So the question is, for the people who are working out, what do you do on those recovery days? Like active recovery, it almost seems like a misnomer, but it does make sense when you start to figure out what you should do. I know they're built into all of our like 8-week plans.
Yeah, a lot of times we talk about having your rest day in between your workouts, right? And sometimes using that term rest just kind of naturally gives you the idea of just lounging around and chilling out, where recovery can look many different ways. And many times, like you said, recovery is better served when it's, first of all, intentional. And so, getting your body moving, doing the things that are going to kind of fuel your body to repair itself. So that's going to be, I mean,
Right.
recovery is hydration. Recovery is eating good foods that are going to kind of replenish and rebuild your body. And not taking that rest day, like we said in the emails this week, not taking the rest day as a cheat day, but look at that as still an investment in you moving towards your goal. So, for instance, when we've been talking about what do different splits look like. I think last week Brandon was asking about the workout schedule of 5 days a week. I was doing a 5-day program, and so on Saturday and Sundays, throughout the week during the Forge, I was doing the ruck every morning, 40-minute ruck every morning when I was walking the dog. And really, I used that almost as just kind of that was typically my quiet time and meditation. That's what I checked that box off for. And then I would do my workout, my strength training workout during the day, in the middle of the day at the gym when things were quiet. And so that's a lot of activity, right? So then on Saturday and Sunday, I use those as kind of my recovery days, where those were the days where when I did my ruck or my walk, that was my physical activity many times, where I use that as kind of that active recovery, just getting the body moving. And then for my meditation, I would do like my deep breathing exercises, or just sit quietly for 10 minutes or whatever that was. But that Saturday and Sunday stuff, it was okay. Maybe my activity is going for the walk, and then a lot of times I'd come home and I would just do like some light mobility stuff, some static stretching, just things that kind of felt good, just to make sure that I was not constantly putting my body under a bunch of stress. And I mentioned last week that the rucking, I think, was probably too much. In fact, I think that's
Right.
probably a little bit why I'm struggling with some nagging back stuff this week. But again, that's not a problem. We'll work through that. And in fact, this whole week I'm kind of using almost as like an active recovery week. I went way lighter in my leg day workout today. Going a little easier on my upper body stuff. Monday, I really just did like some mobility stuff and some rehab style work. So all of that is considered rest and recovery in my eyes, where you're still trying to do things that are getting your body better. When you then look at the sleep factor, it's the quality of that sleep that you get. And we reference all the time the book Sleep Smarter by Sean Stevenson, because there's so many nuggets in there about how important the quality of sleep is and the things that you can do to get better quality sleep. Somebody that sleeps 8 to 10 hours every night doesn't mean that they're getting better sleep than somebody that sleeps 5 to 6 hours.
Right.
And having routines around those kind of things. So like really almost every day, you should kind of treat your evenings as a recovery routine. So trying to get to bed at the same time, trying not to drink caffeine too late in the day. We've all seen, like you mentioned, with the Whoop or the Oura rings or those kind of things, that, having food later in the evening can disrupt, and not for everybody, but can disrupt you individually as far as your sleep patterns. Alcohol, bad food definitely has more of an impact than healthier food. Those kind of things can all impact you. And that's what I really liked about the Whoop, was it would ask you different questions. You could set it up to ask you different questions every morning when you wake up. And that way you can start to see patterns of what are the things that really did help your recovery. So, it could be, did you read before you went to bed last night? Or were you on a screen before you went to bed last night? Or, it knows what time you went to bed. It asks you when you had caffeine. So you can set up all these different questions that it asks you in the morning to then see those habits and then establish, like, and then it'll even tell you sometimes, like, hey, when you intermittent fasted, your recovery level is 10% better, that kind of thing. And so
Right.
when you look at it like that, as the recovery piece, the rest and recovery, really should be more of an intentional thing, as opposed to just I'm just gonna kind of shut it all down and be lazy. That's kind of the connotation that many people get, but being more intentional with that will really, really benefit. And you talk about it all the time, Rhino, that like your fitness and performance level really revolves around three big things. It's your training, your workouts and such. It's your nutrition, and it's your rest and recovery. It's kind of those are like the three big factors that that really play into how your body feels and performs and looks.
Yeah, yeah. If you were to break that down into like a pie, 80% of it would be the nutrition and rest piece, 80 to 85, and then the rest would be the training piece of it. So as far as like the active recovery goes, is the main goal of that to just keep the blood flow or get the blood flowing so that it gets to the muscles and helps repair them rather than just sitting on your ass all day?
That's a big piece of it. I think that just constant motion of keeping things moving is also good, just to prevent things from getting stiff, getting sore. There's so many different chemicals in our body that contribute to the soreness that we get after a workout. I really think of the active movement as, just kind of keeping the muscles pliable, keeping the joints and tissues pliable. Part of that comes just from stretching and contracting and relaxing and those kind of things, but also because of the nutrition, getting the hydration to actually do what it needs to do, getting it all the way through your system and through your body. And your blood flow is what really does that. Getting the lymphatic system to kind of push the crap out of your system. Our lymphatic system is basically like our drainage system of our body, where it gets rid of the toxins and then we excrete it, in our urine and everything. And it goes through our system. But the only way that can push through those drainage pipes is through the contraction of our muscles. Our muscles are like a pumping system. And so the more that we move, if you're laying, think of it this way: when you have somebody that's in the hospital laying in bed all the time, they tend to swell, like their appendages start to swell up, their legs, their ankles or whatever. It's because they're not moving. When you get them moving, when you get them up, it creates the pumping of the muscles, because the body is using all the muscles. That contraction of those muscles helps to pump all of that stuff, that fluid, through those drainage pipes, and then gets it out of our system. And that's where, you eliminate a lot of that swelling and inflammation and things like that. So we've all heard how inflammation is like the big problem, for pain,
Right.
for all these different issues.
Yeah, everything.
Right. Yeah. The most effective way to reduce inflammation is simply to get that inflammation flowing throughout our body and eventually get it into our lymphatic system to drain out.
Yeah, it's funny when you read about any sort of ailment, it's always in, a inflammation of something.
Right.
And then when you read about bad foods, it's bad because it causes too much salt, causes inflammation, or this causes that. Yeah,
It's such a blanket word that it's
right.
overused for sure. And it would be nice for us to have a little bit more of a detailed understanding of, well, what does that really mean? Like inflammation of the shoulder joint is different than inflammation in your gut, but it kind of portrays the same picture. And basically it's irritation it's irritated, it's angry, and you need to calm that down.
Gotcha. Yeah, and guys, the chat thing is open if you have any questions. But kind of along those lines, one of the questions we got was, what should you be doing on your rest days? And the few that I had come up with are doing some mobility stuff, just fun stuff. Go out and knock the soccer ball around, go play basketball, whatever it is you're into. You can walk. Like yoga is kind of a weird one because there are some like intense yoga things, maybe like light yoga, and then would foam rolling fall under that category for rest, for like active recovery and a rest day?
Yeah, definitely. And yoga, like you said, there's different variations of it. If it's a super intense, like athletic style yoga, you probably don't want to do that the day after you just crushed your legs or something like that, because it's going to be hard to do that as well. But it all kind of depends on what you did the day before. So, like if you're doing kind of an upper and lower body split, if you do your upper body on Monday, you can go and do your lower body workout on Tuesday, and you're still going to be getting some movement of the upper body and everything. It's not that you have to go and do this whole big extra routine for your upper body. Now, your rest and recovery days are great days to do any kind of like rehabilitative kind of exercises, or I usually call it, like, I give a lot of my clients homework drills, and so the days that they're in here, or if they have a 3 or 4 day program where they're going and doing their strength training, and those are pretty significant workouts, I have them do some homework drills, the EFDs every day, but then, maybe 2-3 days a week, we'll have them like Mike that I have as a client right now. It's like, hey, on your off days, let's work on your hip mobility a little bit. So let's do some more 90-90 drills. Let's do some pushing and pulling, some isometric kind of stuff, and give them a few things to do there where let's start to kind of fix some of those other problems, but let's do it outside of your normal workouts. Let's do it when you have a little more time. You can relax a little bit. You can work on, if there's some areas that are really tight, that's where you can do some active stretching and things like that. So sometimes it's just the recovery day is a day to start fixing things, or just going for a walk is a great thing. Going for a hike, doing something active, go for a bike ride. All of these different things. There's no like real rules or regulations. Now, if you're a PGA Tour player and you've got, 4 days of competitive golf, you maybe do a couple workouts early on in the week that are somewhat strenuous, then yeah, those recovery days are going to be very intentional with, maybe ice baths, or manual therapy, having the chiro do some soft tissue massage, or the physical therapist, or taking you through some activation drills, or what are your injuries, what's the homework that you have to do to fix whatever you have going on, your back, your shoulder, your neck, your hips, your ankle, all of those different things. So a recovery day can look a million different ways for a million different people, but it's all about just kind of restoring your body so you can perform better the next day.
Gotcha. Yeah. So the bottom line is give your muscles a chance to repair themselves.
Yeah. Muscles, joints, tissues, everything. Right.
Gotcha. So Marina, can I count golf as the recovery day?
Yeah, I totally do. Now, I would say that it's probably beneficial to do a few things after your round of golf, to, like a couple static stretches or a couple things. Again, if you know that you've got some issues, maybe you struggle with, like Achilles or calf tightness or whatever, back issues, then maybe it's good to have a little routine after your round of golf. But I love golf as a recovery exercise. That's why even in the Forge, we considered that one of your daily activities, your intentional physical activity, because there's a lot to golf. Especially if you're walking the course, you're moving, you're definitely getting your body moving. But that's where, let's be a little bit intentional too. If there's nagging issues that you have in your body, then maybe take a little time to work on those after your round. Make sure that you do a little bit of a warm up. Your dynamic warm up before a round of golf is a perfect example of a recovery exercise.
Cool.
Yeah.
Man, that's a fun way to recover.
Yeah, right. I mean,
not sure there's a better way to do it.
Right.
Excellent.
Now, just quick point on that. Yep. Let's say that you're somebody who, you're playing some very competitive golf though, and maybe you have to go play 36 holes. Well, then you may need to recover so then that day becomes more of an intense thing, and it's less recovery. That's more performance. So then maybe the next day you need to do a couple things to recover from what you did that day of competition or whatnot. Does that make sense?
Yes, I mean, they're different golfing days. I mean, like today, I left 7 o'clock in the morning to be there at 7:45, did a warm up for 45 minutes. Then I had a lesson for 20 minutes. Then I did my putting, and then I played 18 holes medal. So it was sort of less of a recovery day. But if you just go out for a friendly game, but I always warm up, as you know, and I got my Theragun, I do my yoga stretches afterwards. So, it's just how you take the golfing day. But today was a tough day. And it depends on what the weather is like as well. If your heart rate goes up to 130 when you're walking to 30 miles an hour, wind, then it's obviously different on the body, and depending on what sort of injury you got. So it's good. It's good to have a friendly game as a recovery day. I appreciate that. I like that.
Yeah, and like your recovery day from a day like today, you might not want it to be golf. Like you might want to go into the gym and do just a light, easy workout, maybe some resistance training, but lighter. So like you're recovering from your golf, when some days golf can be the recovery from your exercise routine. It's a lot of it is about intensity and the intention of what you're doing versus what you did the day before that you're trying to recover from.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah, Marina, on Saturday, we very much had a UK round of golf. It was so windy. And I played we played this course called Tapawingo in St. Louis. It's a public course. I bet I played it 15 times, and I've never played it like that. It was, wow. I mean, it was fun because you could play it so much differently, but I'll take a nice calm day over that, especially because that was the first time I've played in quite a while.
Do Rhino keep the ball low in the wind?
Yeah, you've never seen me play. I hit the ball so dang high. I can't not do it. I don't know why.
When we finally get over to play the links, he's in trouble, Marina.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to really club up or something. I don't know what I'm gonna do. Putter the whole way. Okay. So that's the recovery thing. And then we had, just different questions about, it opened up the, Pandora's box of talking about recovery. Okay, what do we do that even gets us to recovery? And then we started talking about, hypertrophy, and I said it correctly. So hypertrophy, and again, I didn't know what this was until, I don't know, maybe 2 years ago. And just in the past 6 months, I can say it properly because it's spelled like hyper and then the word trophy. So hypertrophy. But I'm
going to confuse you because some people do call it hypertrophy.
Those people are wrong now. But yeah, I always thought it as kind of a just synonymous with bulking. And then you and I just had this conversation earlier today that's not quite right. So when we hear that hypertrophy or see it, what exactly are we talking about?
Well, a lot of it boils down to kind of semantics and kind of the degree to what somebody is picturing, because basically hypertrophy is the building of muscle. Atrophy is like losing muscle. Hypertrophy is building muscle. So naturally we think bulking, but I think that the word bulking has this connotation of going straight Bryson DeChambeau. If right. You tell a woman that you're taking her through a bulking program, you're going to get fired immediately as a trainer, right? But if you explain that what you're trying to do is build lean muscle mass, that's really what the ultimate goal is to build muscle mass. It doesn't mean that you're trying to beef up like an Arnold Schwarzenegger. And that's kind of what you and I were discussing, is that, when you hear that term, you immediately think like, that movie Pumping Iron with Arnold and those guys.
Right.
But I would venture to say that most guys, and I will even say a woman wouldn't tell you this is necessarily their goal, but most guys want to have that muscular, they want to build their muscle, right? They don't necessarily want to get huge, but they want to build their muscle. They want to look a little bit more defined, is maybe a better way to say it. And I would say that most women are the same way. They want that definition, which comes from building some muscle. In fact, there was a lady in the gym just this morning. She's working with one of the other trainers here named Eric. And she just started doing like some barbell training and lifting within the past probably 2 to 3 months. And she's a lean woman, but she has started to gain some muscular definition in a very good way. And she's like blown away because she's not doing all the high intensity interval stuff that she normally would do. Like she's talking about her friends that are asking her like, what are you doing? and it's all about her nutrition, and it's all about, you know, her actually gaining some strength and building some muscle. So she is going through a hypertrophy program. Um, at the same time, she is leaning out as well, and it's creating the results that pretty much everybody that works out wants. You want to
I
have a little bit more muscle, and you want to be a little bit leaner. But I think where the confusion comes in is, you know, when you see some of those superheroes like the Marvel guys, you know, you see a Hugh Jackman with his shirt off, or um, you know, even so the picture that we just showed of me, you know, like I weigh less, and but most people, I've had people come up to me and say, man, you're really bulking up. It's like,
right.
no, well, actually, I weigh less. I have less body fat. Yes. And I gained some muscle mass, but not a ton. But the fact that I leaned out, you can now see the definition of the muscles. So hypertrophy doesn't mean you got to get huge and jacked. Hypertrophy is you're building up you're building up the muscle. And then ideally you can combine that to get the look that you want by then leaning out a little bit. And, you know, that comes from diet. Hypertrophy comes from partially diet, because you have to be eating enough to support the rebuild of your muscles. But hypertrophy also comes with a lot of volume in your strength training. And that can go into a whole different topic of, you know, what's the difference in strength training for strength, hypertrophy, power, those kind of things, which we've kind of talked about before. But hypertrophy, you have larger volume in your training, and you're going to then see your muscles get a little bit bigger. And then ideally you lean out a little bit, and that's going to produce more of the result that you want, not the huge Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like if I asked Marina, hey, you want to get on a bulking program? She'd be like, no, not a chance. Right. I mean, tell Kendra, we're going to bulk you up.
Yeah, that my wife. That's not what I
Yeah.
signed up for.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of where, you know, most people have no idea what the term hypertrophy means. And then, but then you use the term bulking. It's like we need to kind of find a new word for what we're trying to do when we're on a muscle building program. And it's taking me back to a point that I wanted to bring up is hypertrophy is a great thing for just about everybody, especially for golfers, because when you're building up your muscle, you're building more mass around your skeleton. You're building up more support for your skeleton, for your joints. And so that's going to protect your body when you're playing golf. So like, I would love to see a guy like Justin Thomas, Ricky Fowler. I'd love to see those guys, you know, gain a little bit more muscle mass, because it's
Right.
going to protect their bodies when they're swinging so hard, when they've got all these different forces on them. And, you know, the majority of us just in regular activity, say when you're playing soccer, you're playing basketball, you're just running around, having more muscle to support your bones and joints is going to help protect your body from injuries and issues and things like that.
Yeah, that's a huge thing. The injury prevention, and then I assume it helps with pain also. If you like, that's more of like a movement thing, because you know a lot of guys come to us and something hurts on them. Not that they're injured, but something hurts.
Mhm.
You know, my shoulder hurts, my what, and that's probably more of a mobility thing. Like if it's my back's kind of a tricky one. That's typically, we were talking about that the other day, where if your back hurts, it's probably not your back.
Yeah, your pain typically is going to come from some sort of an imbalance somewhere. So that's going to be your muscles holding your bones in certain positions, or when they move, it's moving in certain patterns that maybe aren't ideal. And so then other areas of your body start to compensate and kind of take the load. And that's what happens to your back most of the time, is you're doing something that, you know, maybe another part of your body, if it's in something like a golf swing or something like that, um, you know, if you're getting back pain, it probably means that something else isn't moving very well. And so your back's trying to help out and is doing movements that it's not supposed to. And that's when it gets angry. That's when it gets inflamed and aggravated. And then you have back pain. And then you think like, oh my gosh, I've got an issue at my back. And turns out that issue is more of a symptom that was caused by something else. And so that something else is typically going to be something postural related, something muscle imbalance related that, ideally can be fixed, that isn't a permanent structural issue.
Right. Or sitting at a desk for 8 hours a day is
Yeah.
not good for your back.
Correct.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. So we've got a couple questions here that we can get to in the last 8 minutes or so. Let's see that one. We just kind of did that one. Okay, so completely off topic, but this is a Q&A. By the way, we do need to come up with a better name for the live Q&A. It's so boring.
Yeah. If you guys have any suggestions, any clever suggestions, we've used the number 18 and the number 9 and other things. So
yeah, put them in the chat.
We're out of ideas.
That's it. What would you recommend to prepare for each round of golf?
So if we're talking about like right beforehand, like warm up wise, which kind of sounds like that's probably the question. We're big fans of kind of the priming technique, which would be, not just doing stretches, but actually creating some tension in your muscles to kind of get them activated and ready to perform. So, we kind of steer away from doing like long static stretches. I think of long static stretching as more of a relaxation kind of a thing, where you're kind of getting nice and loose and, think of like kind of like laying down meditative kind of thing, like stretching, your muscles are becoming rubbery and loose. You don't want that before you go play golf. You don't want to be loose and like floppy is maybe a good visual for that. You want your muscles to be a little bit on tension, but elastic is probably the best word for it. So, being able to stretch and fire like a rubber band. And one of the best tools to use before a round of golf is, in fact, like an elastic band, a rubber band, where you can, loop it around the golf cart or loop it around a post, and you can do like just some rotations, like some rows. You could do some rotating rows. You could do some punches, some rotating punches. Some of those kind of things. I'm a big fan of even just doing like a little bit of a lunge and some squats and doing like just some, big rotations of the upper body where you're activating your muscles, you're kind of turning them on. You don't have to look like the weirdo that's laying down on the driving range or anything like that. Do these at home if you want. I would like to make some of this a little bit more normalized on the practice range. I still have this envisionment of having an 18 strong station up at Old Warson or some of the clubs where it's almost like a stretching cage, but it has like elastic bands. And so it's like, it's okay for people expect you to go over there and like warm up a little bit as opposed to looking like an idiot. I like getting out the orange whip, something like that, where you can kind of swing that around a little bit. But think of like the big things that need to move in your golf swing. So getting your hips to rotate a little bit, getting your upper torso to rotate a little bit, doing your neck circles and shoulder circles, like all of your joints, your neck, your shoulders, your torso, your hips, they all need to rotate and move. So doing something that's going to get them to move before you go in and even chip and hit balls and things like that, because by doing that, you're going to get some of the muscles working and just awake before you go to the first tee box. If you just walk up to the range and just start with your pitching wedge and work your way down, through the bag up to your driver, yeah, you're doing the motions that you're going to be going through, but you haven't really stimulated the muscles to really wake up yet. So even doing something as simple as your EFDs, maybe not the ones where you have to get on the ground, but just the neck, the shoulders, the torso, the hips, do a little lunge, throw in some sort of a little rotation. I even like taking the band and doing like some pull aparts, to really get the shoulder blades firing.
Right.
And, that's pretty much good to go. We do have the warm up in the app, and we've got our warm up routine that's available, where we've got a whole, at home warm up that I think is like 20 minutes long, 15, 20 minutes long. We've got one, like a more extended one at the driving range. And then we've got like the quick 5-minute, you're a trunk slammer and you're sprinting to the tee box. You could do it while the other 3 guys are teeing off and be ready to go. But it's just a matter of kind of waking everything up before you play. And the longer you have, the more time you can spend. If you can do it at home and get on the ground and maybe do a little foam rolling and things like that, you're going to be better off. I get the question a lot, like, if I do the one at home, how long does that last? And do I still need to warm up when I get to the golf course?
Right.
I like to think that if your drive is longer than a half hour, you probably need to do a little bit more when you get to the golf course. It's still good to do the one beforehand because you're getting that repetition. You're going to get a little loosened up, but you're naturally going to stiffen up a little bit in your car ride. So then to save 5 or 10 minutes to do a little warm up when you get there, I think is a good idea. But even if you don't have time, you got to literally run to the tee box. If you did that one at home, you're still better off than not doing anything at all.
Gotcha. Yeah, I know. I've gotten in the habit of doing the daily motion before I walk out the door to go play. And then, a couple of years ago, you told me this where you do 5 right-handed swings, 5 left-handed swings, 4 right, 4 left, and you work your way all the way down. And that seems to work well for me too. Just to do those things. So you're getting, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 swings on each side after having moved all the other stuff. And it's easy to remember.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of times I'll do, just right-handed, left-handed swings. I don't recall telling you the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, but
well, you did. And
well,
as soon as I get hurt, I'm suing. Suing ourselves.
Take everything we got.
That's right.
But yeah, kind of going in both directions is a good thing too, because it gets your joints moving both ways. Again, I caution just on the left-handed swings, or opposite side swings, don't go too crazy, especially if you're getting ready to play a round of golf. I did that one time where, not with the opposite hand swings, but I was down at Porto Chima at the Lake of the Ozarks and decided it would be a good idea to do my super speed protocol before going out to play. And I basically pulled my groin muscle trying to hit the ball as far as I could after my super speed, and it made for a little bit of a rough 2 days of playing. So don't do that. Don't go crazy with it. But
no, yeah, because
that goes back to our rule of don't be stupid.
If only there were a law in the world that governed that. Don't be stupid. Yeah, I know when you do anything like with your off side, it's just awkward and it's unathletic. I imagine that's how like really unathletic people are, just even with their dominant side. They just, you and I can't look cool throwing the ball left-handed.
Right.
That's just how they are. But yeah, that is a good way to get hurt because you're still trying to do the same intensity, but with a really awkward motion.
Yeah. One of the no laying up guys, if you guys ever have listened to their podcast, Tron, I think he decided that for a year he was going to play left-handed. And so he went a full year.
Holy cow.
And, he ended up being like a 30 handicap to start. And I don't know what he ended up being. I didn't follow that closely, but I was like, that took dedication. He played a whole year and documented it for the world to see.
Wow.
Playing opposite handed. It was pretty good.
That's rough.
But I know there's some golf instructors that have talked about doing that so they can get a feeling for what it's like for the beginner to learn. So they would do that themselves, like try to teach themselves left-handed, because then that gives them a better appreciation of what their new golfers are going through, which I thought was kind of cool.
That's probably a good golf instructor.
Yeah. Right.
Who's willing to do that. Nice. Okay, Brandon, thanks, gents. You have to run. This was a good talk spoiled. He Winston Churchill'd us. Get it? What a turkey. All right, so we're 3:01. So yeah, another good hour. Good work, man.
All right, guys. Well, thanks again, and we'll catch up. If you guys have any clever ideas for the Q&A name, let us know, and I will be sure to post the back 9 rules and the gooey butter cake recipe in the 18 Strong Facebook group.
Very cool. All right, guys. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, guys. Stay strong.